Hello, my name is John Burris. Thank you for joining me today for this short video called The Politics of Muscle. In this video, we're exploring how muscles become dominant in our life and all the different companies and categories that are associated with. In essence, muscles become an industrial complex and how we've selected one part of our body to dominate, and is that working and is that healthy? And what are the implications of that? I'll be exploring perhaps how government policies and the emergence of gyms and health clubs have come to dominate our own perception of our body. Is it natural? Is it healthy? I'll show you how supplement companies and the media and influencers are basically pulling us in the wrong direction for their own profit and interest. And perhaps we're going in the wrong direction. So my hope today is show you how the politics of muscle are enormous. And we all bought into the myth about having more muscle. We need more muscle, more muscle, more muscle building. I see it every day from online influencers, from medical doctors to natural doctors to fitness trainers. Build muscle, build muscle, build muscle. And yes, we do need some muscle. That's true. We don't want to be flabby and, with a skinny body. However, I believe we're overdoing it and we're doing it to our own disservice. So the muscle culture is very political because we all bought into this myth, this story about build muscle. And every day we're being taught by the medical community, by the training community, the fitness community, build muscle, build muscle. And like I said, it does have health consequences. We need muscle. Muscle will help us to be healthy, but we're overdoing it, in my opinion. We're completely building too much muscle and we're sacrificing other parts of our body. And here's the core of it. The people with the most muscled bodies aren't the healthiest. I've worked on bodies for 40 years. I've probably worked on 40 bodies in 20,000 bodies in my 40 years of practice. I've taught thousands of yoga classes. The people with the most muscled bodies aren't the healthiest. It's called the touch test. I'm sure you've heard about the taste test. When you taste something, you can tell how delicious or how horrible it is. Well, when you actually have a person like myself who actually touches body, and every time I touch the muscle body, I go, whoa, this is not good. Yet they're being taught that that's healthy. It's not. A muscular, hard, frozen body is not healthy at all, and that's part of the politics of muscle. We're being taught to do that, and that's wearing people down and drying them out over time. So there's better choices, and I'll talk about what that is. We have this notion in our culture that muscle is sexy. What does that mean? It looks good on a photograph. It looks good at the beach in your beach body, but is it healthy? I contest it's not healthy. Muscled bodies are hard, dried out beef jerky bodies. A healthier body is a long-time practitioner of yoga where they're energized and liquid and fluid. They may not look as sexy on the beach, but they're healthier when you do the touch test. So a muscled body is not necessarily a healthy body. It's a worn out, dried out body. And the longer you do that, you wear yourself down and you dry yourself out. So we're taught every day by these influencers, by these magazines and all these media reports about how we need to keep building muscle, building muscle. And when I see in those people's bodies, I see broken down bodies. I see shoulders rolling forward. I see one shoulder 4 inches higher than another. And these are the people who are teaching us to be healthy, the muscled people. So muscle and politics are very rampant in our culture. They go together poorly, but we're taught the wrong things because muscle has become very political, and that's what many people are seeking because that's what they're taught. It seems that Western culture is obsessed with muscle. The magazines and everything all associated with the social media pages and such. Other cultures aren't so obsessed with muscle. They're not at the gym pumping iron and hardening and tightening their body. So the Western culture has this obsession. It starts with the editors of magazines. It starts with these influencers who keep teaching you to harden and tighten, harden and tighten. So it becomes very political after a while because we've actually sacrificed other parts of our body and turned muscle into a god. And the harder you are, we're taught, the healthier you are. And that's just a false statement. In my experience, as touching bodies is hard tissue, is dead tissue, is dried out tissue. So the people, the weightlifting culture, the fitness culture, the trainers, the medical doctors, they're teaching you how to dry out and to harden and glue together. And that's what people believe is health. And I can contest it's not health at all. So once again, muscles become very political. And here's where it goes really wrong for most people. There's tissue in the body called fascia, which is a connective tissue in the body. And that's what we stretch and lengthen. It's like the white fibers in an orange. So people who just work out, they do their fitness routines either at home or at the gym, in a sports training facility or wherever they're doing it at, they harden, they build muscle tissue, but they dry out the surrounding fascia tissue that surrounds everything. And so over time, they're dry and hard and stiff, and they lose joint mobility, they lose fluidity in their tissues, and they lose energy flow through their fascia, all because they're taught that muscle is king, muscle is God. And this is what's happening because the politics of muscle are taking most people in the wrong direction. And here's a picture of an orange. We'll see the orange stuff and the white stuff. The white fibers are essentially what the fascia be like in the body. It surrounds everything, it connects everything. And if all you do is build muscle tissue, you would dry out the white stuff, which would be the fascia in the body. So the more muscle you build without stretching, the drier you become, as if you're drying out an orange. So let's take this to an actual model here. So here's a model of your muscle fascia connection. So there's a bundle. It's a bundle. So these blue fibers here, that'd be the myofibrils. So when you're lifting weights and strength training, you're building more myofibrils or you're expanding the ones you have. But all that is surrounded by a containment of fascia tissue. And when you're born, it's liquid and soft. So building here, soft tissue. What happens in the muscle culture is this. You're building muscle fibers, but you're not stretching. So your fascia that surrounds the muscle fibers dries out. This is why the weightlifting culture, the gym culture, the fitness culture, if you just build muscle, you dry out. And you shrink, you harden, you shorten, and you collapse as you age because you're not keeping the fascia that surrounds the tissue liquid. So you're drying out, but we're taught by the media influencers and by these editors of magazines and these editors on TV shows, keep building muscle. It's a political scam. It's like the deep state of exercise. It's causing us to go in the wrong direction because people who continue that lifestyle will dry out, hard, and shrink. Yet we keep doing it because we kept being told this is what's healthy. So I often ask myself, does it work? Does it work at all? And so I would collect data from people perhaps who have been lifting weights their whole life. And what did I find? So here's a list, I call it soft data. All this available on the internet. I'm not making anything up. I won't even give you anybody's name. You might recognize somebody, but I'll tell you, these are the people who taught me how to harden and tighten my body. How well is it working for them? Here's a woman who in the 70s and 80s made dozens of exercise videos, how to exercise and aerobicize and tighten and harden her body. She's had both knees replaced, both hips replaced, and a shoulder replacement. There's a famous weightlifter became a politician who's had essentially 2 back surgeries, hip replacement surgery, shoulder surgery, and shoulder surgery for broken ribs. There's a famous actor who's famous for his boxing movies, has had 7 back surgeries and a neck fusion surgery. There's a famous golfer who's famous for his fitness and his weightlifting. He's had 6 back surgeries, 4 knee surgeries, Achilles tendon repair surgeon, and I don't even know what else. There's a famous big wave surfer who's had multiple back surgeries, hip replacement surgery, shoulder surgery, neck surgery, These are the people teaching us how to be well. They go around teaching fitness courses how to harden and tighten your body. It's a scam. We've been taught by the wrong people doing the wrong things. It doesn't work out. Another one I want to mention here, there's a guy who spent the last 2 or 3 decades a famous trainer. And he's on TV, late night TV, selling exercise equipment. He's had multiple back surgeries. He's had rotator cuff tear, hip replacement, and then there's a list of athletes that go a mile long with knee replacements, hip surgeries, hip replacements, back surgeries, having to retire from sports because of their back surgery because they're too hard and too tight. And almost none of them has respected their fascia tissue. If they learned how their fascia is important, there would have been something completely different. So we're going the wrong direction. The people who are teaching us how to be well aren't doing well. And the whole culture is a scam in a way because there's a lot of politics involved in this whole anatomy thing. So there are better solutions though. This is the hard body concept we're taught to achieve. This is not necessarily a healthy body. This is what politics and anatomy do when they come together. They teach us that this is health. This is not health. The body I just showed you is more like a suit of armor. Hard, tight, rigid, glued together, fused together. This is what the muscled body is actually doing. And this is another way to look at the muscled body. It's a series of blocks that need to be hardened and contained. That's why we do all this core workout and gym workout to harden and tighten the body. This is not a healthy structure. This is a dead, decaying structure. This is what the media is teaching you to do. This is actually a much healthier body. A person doing a yoga back bend here, arm stretching. They don't have bulging chest muscles, bulging thigh muscles. They don't look muscular, but they're completely much healthier because their tissues are softer, more range of motion, more fluidity, great flow of energy and chi through their fascia tissue. So this is a much healthier version, but this is not what the media is teaching you as health is. They're going, oh, do that on your vacation someday, but go to the gym most often. There's only one goal of an industrial complex, it's to make money. Sometimes even the original idea is wrong. So this idea that we need to harden or tighten our body is completely wrong. Yet all the industries that flourish around it, from supplement companies to gyms and health clubs to magazines and influencers teaching you the wrong things, taking the wrong direction, they're all benefiting on our idea that's not true, which is crazy. It's also crazy, in my lifetime of playing sports, not once did a trainer or a coach ask me about my flexibility or my fascia. Not once visiting my primary medical doctor did she ever say, how flexible are you or how's your fascia doing? She wants to know how much muscle I'm building. What's my body mass index, which are completely ludicrous. So we live in a culture that is taking us in the wrong direction, and that's where the politics of a muscle come involved. It's the favored child in our body, where we somehow went off course the last 100 years or so. And my experience touching thousands and thousands of bodies, the people who are the most muscled are not the healthiest. They're the ones who have the least health. And all kinds of problems associated with a hard, tight body. You know, a lot of this starts thousands of years ago when we start developing sport that came out of war. We stopped killing each other for short periods of time and created mock battles, like in the first Olympics, and those mock battles turned into sport, which developed into mini sports, and it's really the same thing. It's trying to dominate and overwhelm somebody. I played sports, and my whole purpose was to knock somebody down and knock somebody out. And that's what we're doing. So we have to harden our bodies and muscle our bodies. We have basically national holidays in February. It's called the Super Bowl, where we all sit around and eat chips and salsa, watching other people knock each other out because of their muscled bodies. So muscles become ingrained into our holidays and our culture and our celebrations and whatnot. And it's not making us any healthier as physical beings and as a culture as well. The politics of muscle have crept over into our health in many really negative ways. So for example, the muscle culture has taught us, and this is back doctors, I've never I've never known a back doctor who really understood the back because they're practicing a 400-year-old idea that the body's a column that needs to be hardened and tightened and locked down. That's why most people who have back surgery don't just have one. They have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, because they're practicing this old thinking model that muscle is holding us up and we have to harden and tighten the column to hold us upright. The body doesn't function that way at all. And here's your spine. The old thinking is that your spine and the muscles surrounding the spine needs to be hardened. This is the core myth. If you want to learn more, I've got some great videos on YouTube. One's called The Core Myth. One's called Backs Do Not Just Go Out. If you want to learn the truth about how the body actually works, follow me there. This column and these muscles around here don't hold you up. You don't need to tighten your core and tighten your back muscles to hold you up, because this does not hold you up, because we are not a column. Whoops. Instead, we are what's called a tensegrity model, which is tension. The fascia pulling in all directions hold us up. As you notice in this model, there's no center column. It's all designed around tension pulling in all different directions. So this is counterintuitive to the muscle culture. It's the tension from the fascia that holds us upright. The muscle culture has no clue what that means, but this is actually how we're held upright. Here's a depiction of the tension, the tensegrity model. The yellow squares are your spine, and the white strings are the tension holding up the spine. So that's the fascia that surrounds and envelopes everything. That's what's holding you up. It's the tension in the fascia, not the muscle strength holding you upright. Unfortunately, there's so many subcomponents to this. For example, the physical therapy industry is a offshoot of the politics of muscle. It's war medicine. You come in and they teach you to build muscle around your injury. So in my experience, it doesn't work. It might contain the pain for short periods. It's like putting a coat of paint over a rusted body of a car. It never fixes the rust. We do the same thing in the physical therapy world. We build muscle tissue on top of imbalances and never get the imbalance out. And there's very little respect in the physical therapy world for the fascia tissue. In my opinion, that's the most important part of the healing process. You can build muscle when you're healing, but it needs to come last, not first. You need to get the structure returned to normal first and rebalance before you can add basically muscle tissue, but that's not what it's done. So there's all these layers to the muscle industrial complex, and it's causing us to be disillusioned because we think we're doing the right things, but most people are moving the wrong direction. And I see this all the time in rehab for athletes. For example, this year, before the midseason, the Los Angeles Dodgers baseball team had 14 pitchers out, injured, because they're building muscle and are not paying attention to their fascia tissue. They're part of the muscle industrial complex. The whole sports pavilions are muscle industrial. Last year, the NBA basketball, professional basketball season, 3 of the top players all tore their Achilles tendon. If you understood fascia and not the muscle culture, that should never happen. In fact, yesterday, one of the head coaches for the NFL was walking on the sideline and tore his plantar fascia just by walking. If you understood fascia and not muscle, that should never happen. But we live in a culture, the physical therapy culture, the athletic culture, where there's very little respect for fascia. It's taken us in the wrong direction, teaching us to build muscle, and that's a mistake. So that's what we're at right now. The politics of muscle. It's an industrial complex with supplement companies and influencers and medical doctors and physical therapy and sports teams. And in my experience, I lived in that world the first 35 years of my life, and it didn't work. And then what happened, I changed to a holistic approach, a yoga therapy, more massages, more body work, more functional movement like Feldenkrais and other types of things, where I started to expand my body and starting to open up my tissues. Now, I did strength training, but not that much. I would say 20% of my routines were building strength, and the 60, 70, 80% left was on functional movement like yoga. So I changed the perspective. I believe we need to have muscle, but we don't need to have that much muscle, because when you have that much muscle, you become hard and dried out and tightened. So what I did was make yoga and other functional movements the standard of my exercise. And occasionally I would lift weights or do something to build muscle fibers. So remember the analogy there where we have muscle fibers and we have fascia. What I did is shifted, making my fascia 80% important and my muscle fibers 20% important. And that made all the difference, because the first 30 years of my life, I was making my muscle incredibly important and not doing the fascia work, the stretching, the massage, the body work. So it dried out over time. So in order to make your whole body important, we need to re-emphasize stretching, flexibility, movement therapy, and de-emphasize muscle building, because in my many years in this practice, hard bodies are dead bodies. They're dried out bodies. Then the people will come to me who are in the gym world, the athletic world, the fitness world. They present the worst bodies I work on, because they're hard, petrified, and dried out. Because they believe in the muscle culture and the politics of muscle of taking them there. So I can do it. I change directions, and so can you. But we first have to understand which direction we're heading in order to head in a new direction. So I invite you to expand your horizons and notice that the politics of muscle have carried most of us in the wrong direction. And you can change, though, but you have to get out of those politics. Stop listening to all those people who are making money off a bad idea. And if you want to feel really good, you're going to have to change directions and make your fascia more important than your muscles. Make massage therapy and body work and other types of holistic healing practices more important than hardening and tightening and gluing yourself together. So thank you for joining me today. If you'd like to know more about me, you can visit me at my website, johnburris.com, and please subscribe to this channel for more leading edge videos to come. Thank you.